Hello, everybody. Rhiann Jackson. I have a message. I feel that a lot of people are starting to see, if they haven't known for a long time now, that there's a war on families. That war is a war between the genders, men and women at each other's throats. For me, if you asked my mom to describe what life was like raising her kids, being a mother, and being a wife, she would probably describe that time period as a time where her husband and her daughter were always at war. We were always at war. My dad and I, every minute of every day, it was war. And that's why I am the warrior that I am today, is because I've been at war for really 32 years. Nearly 30. And I don't like war, but we don't have this whole thing won yet, right? So war will continue until we find partnership. We can't beat this by returning to submission to one gender. So if we submit to women, if men submit to women, we lose. I think we'll lose the whole planet, and we'll lose it the fastest if men submit to women. And if women submit to men, it's not fun either, because there's so many important details. There's a woman's intuition, there's mystical value in women that gets silenced and our voices aren't heard. So I don't think the answer is some kind of patriarchy situation. Nobody likes that. I don't even think men like that, right? I think that men would prefer that to the matriarchy. And honestly, let's be real, women would not be having a happy life under the matriarchy. Because if we don't like 2021, we don't like the matriarchy. This is the feminist movement right now. This whole communist, tyrannical dictatorship agenda for world control, manipulative, psyop, just nasty, demonic, horrible, where it's good to murder your own baby in the womb with abortion, and that's empowering. I mean, everything is completely twisted, and that is what a matriarchy looks like, but it gets worse. So we'll just wipe ourselves off the planet. There'll be no one left but one woman at the end of the whole thing. Give it just a couple years, maybe not even that long, right? So we don't want a matriarchy, for sure. If you are a woman, most likely many of you have had issues with women in their lifetime. And some of us more than others, because some women are the problem, and some women just know that some people have endured the problem. Women, a lot of our mothers are very hard on us. We seem to highlight all of their imperfections, and they see us walk around and live our lives like a mirror of them. And every time we do something that kind of contradicts the way that they want to see it, reflecting upon them and their relationship to perfect, it can cause a lot of criticism and a lot of wounds, a lot of wounding. Women wound each other. Women sometimes women are wounding men, and I think that's mostly happening with mothers and their sons, and they lack a lot of insight about the ways that they are doing that to their sons. And then we also do that in our dating relationships and marriages as well. Not all women are the same. There are women that, I think for accuracy purposes, we can't get away from the most accurate term being applied. I know that a lot of people will be triggered by the term, but I cannot think of one that really gets it across. like this word. And there are all different kinds of women in this world. There are not all tyrants in their marriages. They are not all abusing their sons, abusing their daughters, abusing their husbands, triangulating their family members, making sure that their children are at war, so that chaos, and out of chaos can come some kind of order, right? Order through chaos. There are people governing that way, and there are women who are raising their children and handling, like a handler, their husband in that way. And the word for that type of woman can only really accurately be the C word. There are some in this world where it isn't going to be accurate if we use any other word, right? It's never going to get across truly what this is without using the C word. There is a type of woman that makes it harder for all the rest of us. There's a type of woman that every man has met and every man has dealt with, that we will all be assumed to be one of those. And we may never prove ourselves innocent of that. So the rest of us who are not that kind of woman, and we are facing the consequences that society that's used to responding to a C word looks like, right? Men who are used to dealing with a C word, and then they meet you, and you're a good person with a good heart, and you're trying, and they just can't risk it. Like, these guys just can't risk it, because the C words are just really good at looking like they're really innocent and sweet and nice as well. I mean, so they can't tell it apart. I wish that they would look for the pattern, and I wish that they would understand us better. But because C words have taken over this country and maybe the world at this point, I'm not sure how to ever get anyone to see me for who I am, because I think that the risk posed by ever letting a C word into your inner sanctum poses makes men never willing to quite be the kind of man that someone like me, who can absolutely be aggressive, can absolutely be firm and demand that my needs are met, that my standards are fulfilled, that I am satisfied in my relationships, and that I'm not basing my relationships out of need or control. I don't want to be drawn to someone out of neediness. This has happened before. I've already been that girl, and I don't want to be her anymore. It seems like a girl that isn't needy is now even too big of a risk for guys too. I mean, they say they don't like needy and clingy, but when you're not, they kind of assume you're a feminist C word, and then they shut down from that as well. So now you can't be a high value woman, because I don't know that men anymore have a whole lot of evidentiary data with which to conclude that there are any high value women left walking the planet. And I know that's not true, but I think that because when you have standards and you don't tolerate just low level crap where it's just another zero sum game, and you have to be the weaker gender, and you have to just submit to them, and you have to just give up everything important to you in order to make sure that they trust you, or in order to let their wall down or something, and maybe start being that protector and provider once you've already given them everything and, slept with them and done all of that, and then maybe you can finally get through and see the good side of him. But most likely no, because most likely after he gets you sleeping with him, he's going to continue to underperform because it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to get his needs met from you. Because all men are really needing are like sex and attention, really, in comparison to all the things that women need. And we don't own that we need men a lot more than they need us. And that should alone account for a lot more worthiness of respect than we give them, because we are the ones that are more vulnerable, and without protector and providers we have a much harder time succeeding in life. But we don't give them that credit anymore, thanks to female empowerment. And I think that might be one of the issues, that respect is lacking. I know my father, he didn't punish me for doing things wrong because I really wasn't a problem child in terms of breaking like rules or hurting other people. It was always for disrespect. I was always being punished for disrespect. And in truth, I didn't respect my father. I didn't think that he was getting it. He wouldn't listen to me. I couldn't trust him to provide for me or to protect me without getting what the problem was. And so he didn't really have my respect. And then he didn't really like that his child didn't respect him, and so then he would punish me for disrespect. Hey, will you stop that, please? Thanks. I think it might have been more than I could see at the time that my mom, I know that she's told me that she just never really respected my dad. I can't speak for him, but I wonder sometimes if I was being punished so harshly for disrespect, and I was punished very harshly, always, not even just once a day, just like always. Like if we were in the same home under the same roof, I was getting punished, I was getting tormented, I was getting hurt, right? But I now kind of wonder if what he was trying to do was make sure I didn't turn out like these are not his words. His C word of a wife. I really wonder if he realizes the importance of not marrying and having children with a C word, and the best thing that he could offer out of that he was living, the most important thing maybe that he thought that I could ever learn is the importance of not being and not becoming anything like my mother. My mother has a dad who is soft. He enables her. I think that the women run the show in the home that she came from. There are 3 girls, 3 daughters, so a triangle of siblings that's difficult, all women. And then a wife as well. And I think that Harlan thought that I think he likes to go along to get along more than I think is appropriate. That's it, So when I say coward, it can be as simple. How is Harlan a coward? It's as simple as burying your head in the sand instead of disciplining your daughter appropriately, limiting her, not letting it pay off and get rewarded when she acts like a C word. Harlan, you want to know? You guys come to my wall, you want to know, but you don't really want to talk about anything, right? At the end of the day, that's my problem with you. It's not even like this great big huge scandal. It is because you have a scandalous C word of a daughter. And she is a destroyer. She looks for anything precious and anything vulnerable and she destroys it as much as she can. It's just what she does. She is who she is. And I will say that I have forgiven my mother in the sense that I have buried the hope that anything could ever be any different. It could never be any different. She is who she is. She will always be this way. The only thing that I see that I want to push for is limitations on her. It's like we don't have rule of law anymore in government. We don't have rule of law in families and homes anymore because we took masculinity and we stomped on it. C-word stomped on rule of law. How did that happen? So if we're talking about my childhood and how what I have learned through this, I think that women who bring out the worst in men don't just bring out the worst in men in their relationships. Sometimes they bring out the worst in men in everybody else. Because what I found out is that actually they don't always bring out the worst in men for themselves. Because many times men will recognize that it's really hard to win with a C word. And they will not even pick the battle even though they need to pick the battle. And I need them to pick the battle. They will not even try. And then I have to battle the C word myself with them kind of cowering away in the corner like, I wish this wasn't even going on right now. But I don't have any lines of defenses anymore because basically what I'm saying is that the women in the world who choose this kind of behavior because it serves them, it definitely pays off, they get their way when they act like C words. They really don't have any regard for others or their needs or their value or their worth or their pain. They actually I think they like to see it. They enjoy that destruction. They just enjoy it. They kind of find out how powerful they are by just watching suffering, someone kind of innocent suffering. And my frustration, I have frustration with it, but I also think we have to take a step back and take responsibility for it as women, because I think that no matter how good of a woman you are and how much you can identify the C words and that you're not one, we all are going to have to own that we have position as women to get away with stuff that men could not get away with, that men didn't have the options to be able to get away with it like we can. So it really took me until I was older to realize how much I had done in my life that was selfish when I didn't think I was being selfish. I didn't think I was ever selfish to my dad. I thought my dad was abusing me. That's been the narrative my whole life, right? From the C word. The narrative is like that we were at war and we were fighting. Then suddenly when she went to divorce him, then it's that you were abusing Rianne. But obviously him abusing Rianne didn't bother her the entire time that I was growing up because she didn't divorce him till after I moved out of the home. I think that it's women like that like the chaos. And it was serving her to be married to him and watch the chaos erupt. And then she could always create order out of the chaos. But I was too young to see that. I didn't really see that until I was in my 30s. So, and I was a mother myself. And really, I didn't wake up to more of the responsibility I needed to take for my womanhood until I was pregnant with Coleman. And I think that the testosterone from Coleman started to help me understand men in a different way. And I found Allison Armstrong, and she put a lot of the dots together for me that I'm really grateful for. But I want to talk about how this affects our safety, because we know that father's absence is the biggest threat to our nation, and we know that's definitely the number one threat to our vulnerable communities and our minority groups. And I also want to then extend that now to law enforcement, because law enforcement, in much the same way, are being emasculated from protecting us. Like, you're just not allowed to do that I'd like you to watch a quick video that I found of me as a little girl. And then I'd like to explain to you what I learned about myself, my dad and my mom, my relationship to other women, and how I think it applies to the war I'm in now with family court, and with police officers, and with my peers, other women and mothers who are being exploited, again by C words, usually mother-in-law or our own mother. But that's what really fuels family court. They just thrive on that demonic Jezebel energy. So let's watch this video real quick. So I know a lot of people might take different things from this clip. I'm the one in my mother's lap, a little girl, little cute blonde girl. I see and I notice her being treated in a way that the little girl didn't like, and her boundaries weren't being respected by my dad. And I know how that goes, and a lot of times I saw it get a lot worse than that. And you can tell in my face, I'm like, not gonna happen. I'll give him a couple minutes to correct himself, or I'm gonna have to go throw down. And I do wind up joining the race. I put myself in the line of fire, and I redirect the situation through spanking a man who's like way more than 200 pounds heavier than me. Did anybody notice the C word with the bangs? Who wasn't concerned about the smaller children, or actually no one. See, this has been something that, so I tune into details other people seem to miss often, and it will always feel like I'm the only one who wants to stand up and say something. Everybody else is just like not even seeing a problem, not even uncomfortable at all, and I couldn't ever tolerate it. Like from the beginning, my eyes were on that situation, but other people are just not disturbed by it. I think my mom did a kind of a snick, like you're embarrassing me kind of thing, but that's what it had to do with. It didn't have anything to do with protecting another woman who may have been vulnerable. Whoops. So what I picked out of this video, really I did a live stream with a cop not too long ago, where he was going to enforce an invalid, unconstitutional warrant that came from a family court judge because I had live streamed her. So I start live streaming him. I don't have a whole lot of power in the matter, but I can at least live stream him, and I can at least tell him that that's not a valid order, and that he has to say no to enforcing unconstitutional orders. And I, in a way, sort of spanked this officer because this live stream did get thousands of views in a community that only has 1,200 people. It about tripled that in views, and then we got a troll on it, spent 3 hours talking about it. Whoops. Probably wasn't fun for him, It's not probably why he became a cop, so that he could have stand up to him for not protecting their rights on video. But I didn't go looking for a fight with this guy, and I don't believe that he is a bully of a police officer. Just like I don't think my dad was motivated by bullying me all of my life like I thought at the time. Sometimes men are being brutalized so badly, and it's unseen, unspoken of, because men will eat it. They'll eat it. They'll eat responsibility for things instead of actually using the provocative language necessary to really get across the accuracy that there is a C word pulling all the strings. In my family home, it was my mother. In family court, you could say it's my mother, but truly, it isn't. It is the hearing officer. I won't call her a judge. She isn't a judge. That's not a courtroom. They're not doing anything lawfully or judicial or constitutional. They have their own set of rules, and it's all about money. So she is a C word of a judge. In that respect, I'm going to call her communist. C for communist. And I have made a little diagram where I make this comparison that hopefully helps people see the problem, because we're not going to be able to do anything about police brutality until we identify the core of the issue, that police are being brutalized by corrupt tyrants masquerading as judges in family court, and they are being brutalized against the most vulnerable children and mothers in the community. And when they do it, law enforcement's hands are tied because they do not want to overstep the C word's authority. So the communist authority. So are we going to allow the communists to be an authority? Are we going to make men masculine again? Are we going to make law enforcement again? I believe that that's the only way that I can have women be protected without having to throw myself in the line of fire and fall on the sword over and over again. And I will do it until we get children safe from family court corruption. I will continue to fall on the sword. I hope law enforcement doesn't let me.